So you're one of these aforementioned cognitive systems, mortal, but thoughtful, and you're connected to a bunch, like you said, students, your wife, your kids. What do you, in your brief time here on Earth, this is a meaning of life episode. So, what do you hope this world will remember you as? What do you hope your legacy will be?
I don't think of legacy as much as maybe
All
most
Greeks
people
think about legacy.
No, it's kind of funny. I'm consciously living the present.
Yes.
Many students tell me, oh, give us some career advice. I'm like, I'm the wrong person. I've never made a career plan. I still have to make one. It's funny to be both experiencing the past and the present and the future, but also consciously living in the present. And just, there's a conscious decision we can make to not worry about all that, which again goes back to the I'm the lucky one kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Of living in the present and being happy winning and being happy losing. And there's a certain freedom that comes with that. But again, a certain sort of, ephemerity of living for the present. But if you step back from all of that, where basically my current modus operandi is live for the present, make, every day the best you can make, and just make the local blip of local maxima of the universe, of the awesomeness of the planet and the town and the family that we live in, both academic family and biological family. Make it a little more awesome by being generous to your friends, being generous to the people around you, being, kind to your enemies, and, just showing love all around. You can't be upset at people if you truly love them. If somebody yells at you and insults you every time you say the slightest thing, and yet when you see them, you just see them with love, it's a beautiful feeling. It's like, I'm feeling exactly like when I look at my 3-year-old who's like screaming. Even though I love her and I want her good, she's still screaming and saying, no, 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 no. And I'm like, I love you, genuinely love you.
Yeah.
But I can sort of kind of see that your brain is kind of stuck in that little, mode of anger. Mm-hmm. And, there's plenty of people out there who don't like me. And I see them with love.
You still love them.
As a child that is stuck in a cognitive state that they're eventually going to snap out of, or maybe not, and that's okay. So there's that aspect of sort of, experiencing, life with the best intentions. And, I love when I'm wrong. I had a friend who was like one of the smartest people I've ever met, who would basically say, oh, I love it when I'm wrong because it makes me feel human. Wow. And it's so beautiful. I mean, she's really one of the smartest people I've ever met. And she was like, oh, it's such a good feeling. And I love being wrong. But there's something about self-improvement. There's something about sort of how do I not make the most mistakes, but attempt the most rights and do the fewest wrongs, but with the full knowledge that this will happen. That's one aspect. So through this life in the present, what's really funny is, and that's something that I've experienced more and more, really thanks to you and through these podcasts, is this enormous number of people who will basically comment, wow, I've been following this guy for so many years now. Or, wow, this guy has inspired so many of us in computational biology, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, I don't know any of that. Yeah. But I'm only discovering this now through these sort of sharing our emotional states and our cognitive states with a wider audience, where suddenly I'm sort of realizing that, wow, maybe I've had a legacy.
Yes.
Like basically I've trained generations of students from MIT, and I've put all of my courses freely online since 2001. So basically all of my video recordings of my lectures have been online since 2001. So countless generations of people from across the world will meet me at a conference and say, like, I was at this conference where somebody heard my voice and it's like, I know this voice. I've been listening to your lectures.
Yes.
And it's just such a beautiful thing where like we're sharing widely, and who knows which students will get where from whatever they catch out of these lectures, even if what they catch is just inspiration and passion and drive. So there's this intangible, legacy, quote unquote, that every one of us has through the people we touch. One of my friends from undergrad basically told me, "Oh, my mom remembers you vividly from when she came to campus." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even meet her." She's like, "No, but she sort of saw you interacting with people and said, 'Wow, he's exuding this positive energy.'" And there's that aspect of sort of just motivating people with your kindness, with your passion, with your generosity, and with your just selflessness of just give. Doesn't matter where it goes. I've been to conferences where basically people will, I'll ask them a question and then they'll come back to, or like there was a conference where I asked somebody a question. They said, "Oh, in fact, this entire project was inspired by your question 3 years ago at the same conference." Yes. And I'm like, wow.
And then on top of that, there's also the ripple effect. So you're speaking to the direct influence of inspiration or education, but there's also like the follow-on things that happen to that. And there's this ripple that through from you, just this one individual.
And from every one of us, everyone. That's what I love about humanity. The fact that every one of us shares genes and genetic variants with very recent ancestors with everyone else. So even if I die tomorrow, my genes are still shared through my cousins and through my uncles and through my, immediate family. And of course, I'm lucky enough to have my own children. But even if you don't, your genes are still permeating through all of the layers of your family.
So your genes will have the legacy there, yeah.
Oh, every one of us.
Yeah.
Number two, our ideas are constantly intermingling with each other. So there's no person living in the planet 100 years from now who will not be directly impacted by everyone on the planet living here today.
Yeah.
Through genetic inheritance and through meme inheritance.
That's cool to think that your ideas, Manolis Kellis, would touch every single person on this planet. It's interesting.
But not just mine. Joe Smith, who's looking at this right now, his ideas will also touch everybody. So there's this interconnectedness of humanity. And then I'm also a professor. So my day job is legacy. My day job is training, not just the thousands of people who watch my videos on the web, but the people who are actually in my class, who basically come to MIT to learn from a bunch of us. Like
the cognitive systems that were shipped to this particular location.
And who will then disperse back into all of their home countries.
Yeah.
That's what makes America the beacon of the world. We don't just export, goods. We export people.
Cognitive systems.
We export people who are born here, and we also export training that people born elsewhere will come here to get and will then disseminate not just whatever knowledge they got, but whatever ideals they learned. And I think that's a legacy of the US that you cannot stop with political isolation. You cannot stop with economic isolation. That's something that will continue to happen through all the people we've touched through our universities. So there's the students who took my classes, who are basically now going off and teaching their classes. And I've trained generations of computational biologists. No one in genomics who's gone through MIT hasn't taken my class. So basically there's this impact through, there's so many people in biotechs who are like, "Hey, I took your class. That's what got me into the field 15 years ago."
That's
and it's
amazing.
Just so beautiful.
Yes.
And then there's the academic family that I have. So the students who are actually studying with me, who are my trainees. So this sort of mentorship of ancient Greece. So I basically have an academic family. And we are a family. There's this such strong connection, this bond of you're part of the Kellis family. So I have a biological family at home, and I have an academic family on campus. And that academic family has given me great-grandchildren already.
Yes.
So I've trained people who are now professors at Stanford, CMU, Harvard, WashU, everywhere in the world. And these people have now trained people who are now having their own faculty jobs. So there's basically people who see me as their academic grandfather.
Yeah.
And it's just so beautiful because you don't have to wait for the 18 years of cognitive, hardware development to sort of have amazing conversation with people. These are fully grown humans, fully grown adults who are, cognitively super ready and who are shaped by, and I see some of these beautiful papers and I'm like, I can see the touch of our lab in those papers. It's just so beautiful because you're like, I've spent hours with these people teaching them not just how to do a paper, but how to think. And this whole concept of, the first paper that we write together is an experience with every one of the students. So, I always tell them to write the whole first draft, and they know that I will rewrite every word. But the act of them writing it, and what I do is these like joint editing sessions where I'm like, let's co-edit. And with this co-editing, we basically have
creative destruction.
So I share my Zoom screen and I'm just thinking out loud as I'm doing this. And they're learning from that process as opposed to like come back 2 days later and they see a bunch of red on a page. I'm sort of, well, that's not how you write this. That's not how you think about this. That's not, what's the point? Like this morning I was having, this morning between 6 and 8 a.m., I had a 2-hour meeting going through one of these papers and then saying, what's the point here? Why do you even show that? It's just a bunch of points on a graph. No, what you have to do is extract the meaning, do the homework for them. And there's this nurturing, this mentorship that sort of creates now a legacy, which is infinite because they've now gone off on the, and all of that is just humanity. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, there's the papers I write. Because yes, my day job is training students, but it's a research university. The way that they learn is through the mens and manus, mind and hand. It's the practical training of actually doing research. And that research is a beneficial side effect of having these awesome papers that will now tell other people how to think. There's this paper we just posted recently on medRxiv, and one of the most generous and eloquent comments about it was like, wow, this is a masterclass in scientific writing, in analysis, in biological interpretation, and so on and so forth. It's just so fulfilling from a person I've never met or heard of.
Can you say the title of the paper by any chance?
I don't remember the title, but it's Single Cell Dissection of Schizophrenia. Reveals... so the two points that we found was this whole transcriptional resilience. Like there's some individuals who are schizophrenic, but they have an additional cell type or an additional cell state, which we believe is protective. And that cell state, when they have it, will cause other cells to have normal gene expression patterns. It's beautiful. Yeah. And then that cell is connected with some of the PV interneurons that are basically sending these inhibitory brain waves through the brain. And there's another component of, there's a set of master regulators that we discovered who are controlling many of the genes that are differentially expressed. And these master regulators are themselves genetic targets of schizophrenia. And they are themselves involved in both synaptic connectivity and also in early brain development. So there's this sort of interconnectedness between synaptic development axis and also this transcriptional resilience. So, I mean, we basically made up a title that combines all these concepts.
You have all these concepts, all these people working together, and ultimately these minds condense it down into a beautifully written little document that lives on
and
forever.
That document now has its own life.
Yeah.
Our work has 120,000 citations. I mean, that's not just people who read it. These are people who used it to write something based on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is just so fulfilling to basically say, wow, I've touched people. So I don't think of my legacy as I live every day. I just think of the beauty of the present and the power of interconnectedness, and just, I feel like a kid in a candy shop where I'm just like constantly, what package do I open first? And,
you're the lucky one.
A jack of all trades, a master of none.